Welcome back, lovely viewers. If you're just joining us or need a quick refresher, here's everything that went down in part 1 of The Syndicate's Secret. Maya Tades, a struggling bartender in Seoul, took a one-night gig serving drinks at an exclusive underground event. What she didn't know, she'd walked straight into the Park Syndicate's headquarters, Korea's most dangerous criminal empire. There, she met Park Ji-hoon, the syndicate heir. Maya, drunk and reckless, stumbled into his private suite. One stolen night of passion changed everything, but morning brought consequences. Ji-hoon's enemies saw her leave with him and burn down her workplace, killing her boss. Maya fled Seoul, hiding in Busan for 5 years. She wasn't alone. She was pregnant with twins. Maya returned to Seoul and took a corporate job. Her new boss, Park Ji-hoon himself. By week's end, Ji-hoon summoned her to his office after hours. He'd heard the rumors, he'd done his research. "Coincidences don't inherit my eyes," he said, voice lethal and controlled. The truth was about to explode. What happens when Ji-hoon discovers he's a father? And how will his secret fiancé react? This is episode 2, and it's explosive. Hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you don't miss a single moment of this dangerous collision. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. "That's none of your business." The words left Maya's lips like shattered glass. Sharp, final, dangerous. CEO Kang Ji-ho's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind those coal-black eyes. Something that looked almost like pain. Then it vanished, swallowed by the ice that seemed to live in his veins. "I don't believe in accidents," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And until I know why you're really here, you don't leave my sight. Don't try to run again." He stepped back, giving her space but not freedom. His presence still filled the room like smoke, inescapable and suffocating. "Get back to work, Miss Chen." Maya turned toward the door, every muscle screaming at her to bolt. But she walked with measured calm, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she reached for the handle. 3 years, Ji-ho's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "And you still wear jasmine perfume." Maya froze. The words weren't an accusation. They were a memory of tangled sheets in a penthouse suite, of promises whispered in the dark, of the night that changed everything before the warehouse exploded and she disappeared into smoke. She left without looking back, but she could feel his eyes burning into her spine until the elevator doors sealed shut. The sleek offices of Kang Enterprises hummed with their usual Tuesday morning rhythm. Keyboards clattered. Phones rang. The espresso machine in the break room hissed like a serpent, but Maya felt like the entire 37th floor was watching her. Her fingers hovered over her laptop, eyes fixed on the financial projection spreadsheet, but the numbers blurred together. For the 5th day in a row, CEO Kang Ji-ho hadn't spoken directly to her. No criticism, no acknowledgement, not even the cold, calculating glances he usually threw her way during meetings. He moved through the office like a predator in an Armani suit, present, lethal, impossible to ignore. Maya pressed her palms against her temples and forced herself to focus. "Let him hate me," she thought. "As long as he never finds out about the twins, we're fine." Her chest constricted at the thought. 3 years ago, she'd made herself a promise. Kang Ji-ho would never know he was a father. The man who'd once held her like she was something precious now looked at her with nothing but suspicion and barely concealed rage. If he hated her for reason she couldn't name, fine, better hatred than the chaos that would erupt if he learned the truth. Across the city, in the exclusive Red Moon Lounge, Ji-ho sat in a private booth, one hand wrapped around a glass of single malt scotch, the other resting possessively on the thigh of Yuna. Yuna was everything Seoul's elite admired. Tall, elegant, and ruthlessly ambitious. Her platinum hair fell in perfect waves past her shoulders, and her designer dress probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She traced the rim of her champagne flute with a manicured nail, watching him with calculating interest. "You've been distracted all week," she said finally, tilting her head. "Tell me what's bothering you, and don't say it's business again." Jiho swirled the scotch, watching the amber liquid catch the light. "There's a woman at the company," he said flatly. "She's problematic." Yuna raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Problematic how? Did she mess up a project?" "No," he admitted, his jaw tightening. "She's just there, too composed, too careful. It bothers me." Yuna gave a soft, amused laugh. "Then fire her. Problem solved." Jiho's gaze flicked to hers, dark and unreadable. "No, I need to watch her longer." Her crimson lips curved into a knowing smile. "You're paranoid again. My father says you'd have made an excellent detective instead of a CEO. Jiho didn't respond. He finished his scotch in one swallow, but Maya's face lingered in his mind like smoke that wouldn't clear, the defiant tilt of her chin, the way her dark eyes never quite met his, the jasmine perfume that haunted him. Yuna leaned closer, her perfume sharp and expensive. "Whoever she is, she's not worth your energy." But Jiho knew better than to ignore instincts that had kept him alive in a world built on corporate warfare and hidden vendettas. Something about Maya Chen didn't add up. Late that afternoon, Jiho left his office through the executive parking garage. The echo of his footsteps bounced off the concrete walls as he adjusted his tie in the reflection of his black Mercedes S-Class. He turned and stopped dead. A small boy stood directly in front of his car, clutching a toy robot with glowing blue eyes. The child couldn't have been more than 4. His skin was a warm golden brown, his eyes dark and startlingly familiar. Jiho's heart jolted before logic could catch up. "Hey," he said, crouching to the boy's level. "What are you doing down here? This is dangerous." The boy looked up without fear. "My robot fell under your car." Jiho followed his gaze and spotted the toy wedged beneath the front tire. He crouched lower, reached under, and retrieved it, brushing off dust before handing it back. "Here," he said, "but you shouldn't wander around parking garages alone. Where's your mother?" The boy shifted nervously. "I got lost. Mommy left me at the daycare upstairs, but I forgot which floor." "Daycare?" Jiho stood and extended his hand. "Come on, I'll take you back." The boy hesitated, his small fingers twitching before slowly slipping into Jiho's palm. The warmth was unexpected, soft and trusting against his hand. Together they walked toward the elevator, the child hugging his robot like a lifeline. Inside the elevator, the doors closed with a gentle chime. "What's your name?" Jiho asked, watching the boy's reflection in the polished metal walls. "Kai," the boy said with a bright grin, "like the movie character." Something tightened in Jiho's chest, a strange feeling he couldn't explain. "Can I ask you a question?" Kai tilted his head back, eyes wide with curiosity. Jiho raised an eyebrow. "Sure, go ahead." "Are you married?" Jiho blinked, startled. That depends on why you're asking." "My mommy is single," Kai said, hugging his robot closer. "I want you to be my daddy." A surprised laugh escaped Jiho before he could stop it. "Wow. Whose kid are you?" Kai just smiled wider, completely unfazed. "You look nice. Are you shy?" The boy's innocent boldness stirred something deep inside Jiho, a warmth he hadn't felt in years, one that almost made him smile genuinely. The elevator doors opened to the daycare floor, and before he could ask another question, a familiar voice sliced through the hallway. "Kai!" Maya came rushing forward, eyes wide with panic. She dropped to her knees and pulled the boy into her arms. "Where have you been? You scared me half to death." "I was lost," Kai said, pointing up at Jiho. "But this nice Ajoshi helped me." "Mommy, can he be my daddy?" Maya's breath caught. Color drained from her face. "Kai," she hissed, gently covering his mouth. "That's enough." Jiho's eyes widened slightly, confusion breaking through his usual calm. He studied the boy more carefully. The sharp curve of his eyebrows, the faint dimple when he smiled, the way he held himself with quiet confidence. Something deep inside him shifted uneasily. Maya stood quickly, clutching her son's hand. "Thank you, Mr. Kang," she said stiffly. "We'll be more careful." Before Jiho could respond, she turned and hurried down the hall. Kai trotting to keep up. Jiho remained rooted in place, his gaze following the child until they disappeared through the daycare door. There was something about that boy he couldn't quite place. He pulled out his phone, his thumb flying over the screen as his jaw tightened. The glow lit the sharp planes of his face as he brought it to his ear. "Find out everything about Maya Chen," he said quietly. "Everything." Saturday afternoons in Seoul always smelled faintly of street food and rain. Inside the Grand Mart, the air was crisp with the scent of fresh produce and polished floors. Maya pushed a half-filled cart down the brightly lit snack aisle, her twins skipping ahead in bursts of excitement. "Mama, look!" Leela, her daughter, pointed at a display of strawberry cakes gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "They're so pretty." "They're also expensive," Maya said, smiling despite herself. She lifted a box, checking the price tag, and placed it in the cart. "But we'll get one, just one." "Okay," Lila clapped her small hands, her curls bouncing. 4-year-old Kai tugged at Maya's sleeve and pointed toward the beverage section. "Banana milk, the yellow one. You and your sister can share one." "Bottle," Maya negotiated. The twins exchanged a secret look, already plotting how to convince her to buy more. Maya laughed and pushed the cart forward, letting the simple routine of shopping calm the constant anxiety humming in her chest. It had been 3 years since she fled Seoul in flames and sirens. 3 years of living small, cleaning offices, counting every one, hiding her past like a loaded gun. Returning to the city for work felt like walking back into a lion's den, but she told herself the Kang family had long forgotten the nameless woman from a burned warehouse. Still, she couldn't shake the uneasy prickle that came with every shadow. "Mama, can we get tteokbokki?" Lila asked, tugging her hand toward a shelf stacked with instant rice cakes. "1 pack," Maya said automatically, placing it in the cart. "That's all for treats today." The twins erupted in playful protest, their giggles ringing through the store. Maya smiled, but her grip on the cart tightened. Sometimes she caught echoes of their father in the way Kai tilted his head, or the way Lila's eyes narrowed when she was determined. Each resemblance was a quiet, private ache. "Jiho can never know," she reminded herself. "The past stays buried." They rounded into the dairy aisle, and Maya's cart bumped gently into another. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said quickly, bowing slightly out of habit. The woman she'd bumped turned sharply. Her perfume hit first. Orchid and something cold. Yuna. Tall and impeccably dressed in a camel coat that probably cost a fortune, she looked like she'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. Her platinum hair was styled in perfect waves, and her makeup was flawless. "Watch where you're going," she snapped in crisp Korean. Maya straightened, offering a polite smile. "It was an accident. I apologize." Yuna's sharp eyes scanned Maya with cold assessment. Her brown skin, her natural hair pulled back in a simple bun, her plain sweater that hinted at careful budgeting. Then her gaze moved to Kai, standing beside the cart, holding his banana milk like treasure. Something in Yuna's face changed. Her friend, a shorter woman with highlighted hair, leaned in. "Yuna, what's wrong?" Yuna's eyes narrowed as she studied Kai. The boy tilted his head curiously, his dark gaze startlingly direct. The shape of his eyebrows, the quiet confidence in his stance. Small details that carried a jarring familiarity. "No," Yuna said slowly, though her voice trembled slightly. "It's impossible." She didn't know why the first person who came to mind was her boyfriend, Jiho. Her friend raised an eyebrow. "What's impossible?" Yuna shook her head, forcing a tight smile. "Nothing. Forget it." Then, under her breath but loud enough for Maya to hear, she added, "Foreign women and their obsession with Korean men, always chasing what they can't have." The word slid like a knife between Maya's ribs. Her breath caught, but she forced her face into careful neutrality. "Excuse me," she said quietly, her voice steady. Yuna didn't look at her. She adjusted the strap of her designer bag, still staring at Kai as if the child were a puzzle. "Nothing you'd understand," she replied smoothly, then turned to her friend. "Let's go." The two women pushed their cart past, expensive heels clicking against the tiles. Maya remained still, gripping the cart handle until her knuckles whitened. Heat crawled up her neck, a mix of humiliation and restrained fury. Kai tugged at her sleeve, eyes wide with confusion. Why was that lady mean? Maya crouched to his level, forcing a gentle smile. Some people are just unhappy, baby. It's not about us. Lila frowned, tiny hands curling into fists. She's rude. I don't like her. Me neither, Kai declared, hugging his banana milk like a shield. Next time I'll tell her to be nice. Maya laughed softly despite the knot in her chest. No, next time we just walk away, okay? We don't give people like that more attention. The twins nodded reluctantly, their small faces fierce in a way that made her heart ache. As Maya stood, she caught a reflection in the glass cooler door, herself tall and composed despite the flush in her cheeks, and behind her, Yuna stealing one last glance before disappearing around the corner. For a brief moment, Maya couldn't help but wonder if the woman had recognized something, or someone, in the shape of her children's eyes. She shook the thought away and pushed the cart forward, her steps brisk, her heart beating a warning she couldn't quite name. Days passed, but Jiho's behavior only grew stranger. He avoided speaking to Maya directly, yet she caught him watching her from across the office. Brief, unreadable glances that carried more weight than words. Finally, during a late evening, when most of the staff had gone home, Maya decided she'd had enough. She found him in his glass-walled office, reviewing contract proposals. "Mr. Kang," she said, keeping her voice steady, "if you have a problem with me, say it. This silent treatment is unprofessional." He looked up slowly, eyes cold as winter steel. "My silence protects the company." "Protects it?" she repeated, incredulous. "You think I'm some kind of threat?" Jiho leaned back in his chair, studying her with unnerving calm. "Until I know why you're really here, I'll treat you as one." Maya's jaw tightened. "I'm here to work, nothing more." "Then you have nothing to worry about," he said quietly, but his eyes lingered on her face a beat too long. As if searching for a truth, neither of them was ready to speak. Maya turned on her heel and left, her heart pounding with anger and fear. Behind the glass, Jiho watched her go, the image of a little boy's bright eyes haunting him like a question he wasn't ready to answer. The morning traffic on Gangnam Boulevard was a restless river of horns and exhaust. Maya stood at the curb outside the twins' daycare, balancing a grocery bag in one hand and her daughter's small fingers in the other. She checked the time on her phone and sighed. Another late night of overtime had left her exhausted, and the walk home always felt longer when her body begged for rest. "Mama, look!" Lila pointed across the narrow street where a sleek black SUV screeched around the corner, tires skidding on damp pavement. The world sharpened in an instant. The SUV barreled toward the curb, and Lila, ever curious, had taken one tiny step forward. Maya dropped the grocery bag and lunged, but a blur of motion beat her to it. A tall man in a dark jacket darted from the opposite sidewalk, scooping Leela into his arms and spinning just as the SUV's brakes screamed. The vehicle jolted to a stop inches away. Sophie's heart hammered against her ribs. "Oh my God," she gasped, rushing forward. "Are you hurt?" The man set Lila gently on her feet. His voice carried a warm soul accent, deep but gentle. "She's fine," he said, crouching to meet the child's eyes. "But you need to be careful, little one. Cars don't always stop in time." Lila blinked at him, wide-eyed but unhurt. "You're really fast, Ajushi." The man chuckled. "Lucky timing." Maya swallowed hard, adrenaline making her voice tremble. "Thank you. If you hadn't—" He waved it off. "Anyone would have done the same. I'm Park Minho, by the way." Minho was striking in an understated way, tall and broad-shouldered with the clean lines of someone naturally athletic. His dark hair was slightly tousled from the wind, and his warm brown eyes held a steadiness that eased the frantic beat of Maya's heart. From that day forward, Minho became an unplanned constant in her life. A week later, he appeared again outside the daycare with a polite nod. "You look like you could use a ride," he said, glancing at her arms full of shopping bags and two impatient children. Maya hesitated. Trust didn't come easily. Not after years of hiding, but the quiet steadiness in his gaze nudged at her defenses. Only if it's not trouble, she said at last. It's on my way, he assured her. It quickly became routine. In the mornings, Minho would lean against his modest sedan, coffee in hand, ready to drive the twins to daycare and Maya to the subway. Some evenings, when overtime stretched late, she would find him waiting to take them home, the twins squealing with delight when they spotted him. Minho never pushed for more than friendship. He carried heavy bags without being asked, made terrible dad jokes in the cramped elevator, and once dropped by the office with homemade kimbap when he learned she'd skipped lunch. The twins adored him. And Jiho noticed. CEO Kang Jiho had a talent for disguising obsession beneath icy professionalism, yet Maya could feel the shift in the air each time Minho appeared at the company reception to deliver a forgotten lunch or help carry files. One evening, as Minho waved goodbye from the lobby, Maya returned to her desk to find a company-wide memo. In her inbox, effective immediately, external visitors are restricted from office floors during business hours without prior authorization. The email bore Jiho's digital signature. Her stomach tightened. The next morning, Minho texted, "Security wouldn't let me up today. Everything okay?" Maya typed back quickly, "Probably new policy, don't worry." But unease crawled beneath her skin. The next day, Jiho couldn't contain himself any longer. Maya was sorting financial reports in the quiet office when the door swung open. Jiho entered without a word, his tailored suit cutting a sharp silhouette against the dim hallway light. He closed the door with a soft click. "Mr. Kang," she said, forcing neutrality into her tone, "is there something you need?" He leaned against her desk, arms crossed, eyes glinting like steel. "Who is he?" Maya stiffened. "Excuse me, the man who keeps showing up here," Jiho said, voice low but edged with something dangerous. "The one driving your children around, your friend." "He's a neighbor," she replied evenly, "and a good one, that's all." Jiho's jaw tightened. "You bring strangers into my building like it's a playground." "Do you think this is appropriate?" Maya's hands curled into fists beneath the desk. "With respect, Mr. Kang, who I associate with outside of work is none of your business." His eyes darkened. "None of my business." He leaned closer, the faint scent of sandalwood cologne mixing with the sharp ozone of his anger. "You parade around with some man while working under me and expect me not to question it. You think I don't notice?" Her pulse quickened, but she held his gaze. "I don't parade anyone, and you have no right." "No right?" His voice dropped to a near growl. "I own you." The word struck like a physical blow. For a heartbeat, the office fell silent except for the hum of overhead lights. Maya's breath caught, fury igniting beneath her ribs. "You own me," she repeated, each syllable laced with disbelief. "I'm your employee, not your property." Jiho stepped closer, the desk edge pressing against Maya's thighs as he invaded her space. "Then explain the children," he demanded. "How old are they?" "That," Maya said, her voice icy, "is none of your concern. It is if you're hiding something." "Hiding what?" "That I'm a mother?" "Congratulations, you've solved the mystery." His eyes narrowed to slits. "Tell me their ages." "No." Maya turned sharply, intending to leave, but his hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to stop her. "I'm not done," he said, his voice rough, betraying a crack in his control. "Don't walk away from me." Heat flared in Maya's chest. Anger, fear, and something far more dangerous. "Let me go, Jiho," she said quietly, "or you'll regret it." For a long second, he didn't move. His grip tightened just enough to send a message. He wasn't used to being defied. Then a sharp voice sliced through the tension. "Jiho." Both of them turned. Yuna stood in the doorway, designer heels clicking against polished floor. Her eyes flicked from Maya to the hand on her wrist, narrowing with instant suspicion. "I've been waiting in the car for 20 minutes, she said, voice sharp with annoyance. What's going on here? Jiho released Maya as if burned. Nothing, he said quickly, straightening his jacket. Maya yanked her arm free, anger burning beneath her skin. Without a word, she grabbed her bag and walked toward the door, brushing past Yuna with contained fury that made the woman flinch. Deep down, Jiho felt the urge to pull her back. His fists clenched at his sides. Behind her, Yuna's voice rose. Who is she? Wait. You look familiar. You're the woman from the grocery store, aren't you? But Maya didn't stay to hear the answer. The elevator doors closed with a soft hiss, sealing her inside a box of mirrored steel. Her reflection stared back, wide-eyed, trembling, but unbroken. I own you. The words echoed in her mind like both threat and confession. Outside, the city glittered in cold neon, but Maya felt the chain tighten, a velvet leash pulling her back toward the man she swore she'd never belonged to. Jiho stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, the night skyline of Seoul glittering beneath him like a web of restless stars. The city never slept. Neither did the ghosts that lived inside it. Mr. Kang, came the steady voice of Director Choi, his head of security, breaking the silence. We finished the background check. Jiho turned slightly, his gaze sharp. And? She's clean, Choi said, sliding a slim folder across the desk. No ties to the Red Lotus gang or any other organization. The woman's history checks out. Adoption records, part-time jobs, late rent payments, nothing but hardship. Jiho's jaw tightened as he flipped through photos and documents. Maya's face stared back at him in each image. Her tired eyes, her quiet determination. No coded messages, no hidden accomplices, just Maya and the children. The children? Jiho asked without looking up, his voice quieter than before. Choi hesitated. 3 years old. Twins. Something inside Jiho stuttered. 3 years. His heart gave a single violent kick, as if it recognized the math before his mind would allow it. 3 years since that night. 3 years since her skin burned against his. In the dark of a hotel room, neither of them were supposed to remember. His grip tightened on the folder until the edges dug into his palm. No, it's a coincidence. It has to be. He forced his voice into a low, even register. And Han Sujin's movements? Too quiet, Choi replied. No retaliation, no surveillance. Almost calm. Jiho's eyes narrowed. Han Sujin is never calm. That's not him. The Red Lotus knows she's back, Choi said. Our people confirmed the leak, but they've done nothing. Han Sujin led the gang known as Red Lotus, a name whispered in back alleys and dark corners of the city. Members wore the gang's symbol tattooed on their wrists like badges of defiance. But Sujin carried it differently. The Red Lotus sprawled across the side of his shaved head, petals curling near his temple. He kept his hair shaved to keep the mark visible, a silent warning to anyone bold enough to meet his eyes. Jiho exhaled slowly, suspicion curling like smoke in his chest. Continue surveillance. Double the security around her route. If Sujin is planning something, I want to know before he breathes. Yes, sir. Choi bowed slightly and left, the door closing with a muted thud. Jiho remained by the window, fingers pressed to cool glass. Below, the city pulsed in careless rhythm. 3 years old. The thought lodged in his chest like a blade he couldn't remove. The late afternoon sun spilled golden light over the daycare courtyard as Maya arrived, slightly out of breath from the subway. She slowed when she saw the black Mercedes parked at the curb, and there he was again, Jiho. Lately, he'd been showing unusual interest in her children. At home, they couldn't stop talking about him, how kind he was, how he bought them little gifts. She'd tried to tell him to stop, but his only reply was that he would if she agreed to a DNA test. That single statement had shocked her. It told her one thing clearly. He was getting close to the truth. Jiho leaned casually against the driver's door, sleeves rolled to his forearms. A faint smirk tugged at his lips as the twins ran excitedly toward him. "Uncle Jiho!" Kai shouted, his voice carrying across the pavement. Maya winced. "He's not—" But the children were already climbing into his arms. "You're late," Jiho said evenly, adjusting Leela on his hip with practiced ease. I thought I'd help. I told you not to, Maya said, her voice clipped as she reached for her daughter. They needed a ride, he interrupted, stepping just out of reach. And I don't mind. Maya narrowed her eyes. This isn't your responsibility? The twins exchanged glances, sensing tension but too young to understand. Kai tugged at her sleeve. Mama, why are you mad at Uncle Jiho? He's nice. Her chest tightened. I'm not mad, sweetie. Jiho bent slightly so Kai could whisper something in his ear. Whatever it was made the man's lips curve in a small, satisfied smile that spiked Maya's pulse. Let's get you home, he said, striding toward his car before she could object. Minho emerged from the daycare building just in time to see the scene unfold. His warm presence had been a comfort these past weeks, but now his brows knitted in concern. Maya, he said, approaching with a careful smile. I was about to offer a ride. She already has one, Jiho replied smoothly without turning. Tension snapped tight like a pulled wire. Mr. Kang, Minho said politely but firmly, Maya's safety matters to me. I think she can decide who drives her children. Jiho's dark eyes flicked toward him, sharp and unreadable. And who exactly are you to her? A friend, Minho said simply. Maya stepped between them, her voice quiet but edged. Enough, both of you. The twins, sensing the storm, huddled close to her legs. Jiho's gaze lingered on Minho a beat too long before he finally stepped back, a muscle ticking in his jaw. I'll see you tomorrow, he said to the children, his voice softening as if they were the only ones there. Then he got into the car and drove off, the sharp speed of his departure making Maya's heart pound. Minho watched with quiet worry. Jiho had been smoking more than ever. Ashtrays in his penthouse were always full, and the sharp smell of tobacco clung to his clothes. Even Yuna noticed how restless he'd become. Smoking, drinking, pacing the balcony late into the night. Whenever she asked what was wrong, his only reply was a cold, possessive murmur. She's mine. At first, Yuna thought he meant her. The way his eyes darkened when he said it sent chills down her spine. But the longer it went on, the clearer it became. She wasn't the woman in his mind. When Yuna finally confronted Director Choi and he told her everything, her disbelief burst out in a sharp laugh. But wait, a foreign woman? She scoffed, her face twisted with shock. This has to be a joke. Meanwhile, Maya noticed Jiho's absence from the company. Days passed without a single glimpse of him, and even the twins were starting to worry. Where is Uncle Jiho? Kai would ask. Is he okay? Lila added, her little brows knitted in concern. I've been calling him, but he won't answer, Kai pouted. Each question cut deeper into Maya's chest. She tried to brush it off, but worry was becoming impossible to ignore. During a quiet evening walk, she confided in Minho. Would it be wrong to have feelings for him? She asked hesitantly. Minho met her gaze with gentle steadiness. Follow your heart, he said simply. If that's where it leads, don't fight it. After a long night of internal debate, Maya finally swallowed her pride. The next morning, she decided to visit Jiho. But as she crossed a narrow street near her apartment, something hard struck the back of her head. Pain flashed white. The world tilted. She collapsed onto cold pavement, everything fading to black. Across town, Jiho sat in his dimly lit study when Director Choi entered, tablet in hand. Something strange, Choi said, his tone urgent. Jiho straightened. What is it? Our surveillance picked up activity. Han Sujin, he's been spotted near Mapo District. Jiho's heart clenched. Isn't that where Maya lives? Choi nodded. Yes, and the activity isn't new. He's been there for weeks. When we traced it to a specific location, it led to her apartment complex. He handed Jiho a document. Jiho scanned the list until one name caught his eye. What is this? He demanded. New tenants, Choi explained. I checked who recently moved in. Only one name stood out. Jiho's eyes froze on the paper. Park Minho. Choi's voice dropped to a whisper. It could be a cover identity, sir. Jiho's pulse thundered in his ears. Minho is Han Sujin? The possibility slammed into him like a freight train. How did I never notice? How good is he at disguise? If true, Maya and the twins were in far greater danger than he'd ever imagined. Thanks for watching, everyone. Episode 3 drops next week and things are about to explode. Who do you think kidnapped Maya? Drop your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a single twist. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next.